Hello and welcome everybody on my channel. Today we will visit the concentration camp in Dachau, which is 20 kilometers from Munich. This was the first concentration camp in the Nazi Germany. It was opened in 1933, March of 1933, on the command of the chief police officer of Munich, Heinrich Himmler. It was the longest standing concentration camp between all of these, because it was working 12 years long until the American armies liberating it in the 29th April of 1945. So mainly political prisoners were captured and kept here. How was this working? Actually, people who were resisting against the Nazi propaganda and they were not supporting the Nazi party, they were somehow captured and condemned as the enemy of the state. This was the word which they used. So actually they had no concrete reason to condemn these people. And what was also very interesting, this was the first camp where the commandant of the camp could do anything. It was like a state in the state. This is how they usually call it. So you can imagine, like this prisoner was condemned for 2 years to stay in this concentration camp, in this prison, and it was not granted that after 2 years this prisoner will be released, because everything what happened here inside, it was just up to the commander. The camp was also used to frighten people who were against the Hitler's regime, and they were always hearing this: well, if you resist, you will end in the concentration camp of Dachau. It was 200,000 people who were prisoned here during these 12 years, and 43,000 people were executed or died in the bad conditions of the concentration camp. So let's go inside, and it will be very interesting. You will hear a lot of details about the concentration camp. So I hope that you will have the patience to watch all of these long film about the concentration camp of Dachau. So this is the main entrance. Yearly approximately 800,000 tourists come to visit this concentration camp. So we are inside of the camp now. You can see the barracks where the prisoners were kept. This was the so-called Appellplatz, where the prisoners were getting together, and the meeting place where they started their daily work. So because this was the first concentration camp in the Nazi Germany, the pattern and the design of the camp was used mainly for all other concentration camps. And because of this reason, this was also a training station of the SS officers and guards. So before they started their work in other concentration camps, they get training here. So this is another interesting fact about Dachau. As you can see, there is only 2 barracks left, just for the memorial park, which is currently this camp is standing for the victims of this concentration camp. But you can see the places where the former barracks were standing, and you can see how far is the end of this road. So there are so many barracks on the left and the right side. This was called the Lagerstrasse, which is the camp road. So on this road were the prisoners running to the main meeting point, the Appelplatz, after they get the morning alarm, and they must be gaining together to start the daily work under watching of the SS guards. So this is how it was working, and how it was the life of them. On 1st March 1936, Hans Loritz became the commander of the camp, and in this position he introduced a new identification system, which means that the stripes on the clothes of the prisoners identified the reason why they were captured in the concentration camp of Dachau. And later this system was also used in other concentration camps. So red color was meaning that the prisoner is kept here because of political reasons. Green was somebody who committed a crime. Blue one was a migrant. Light blue was some kind of other religion, so because of religious reasons. And pink was homosexual. Black was antisocial, and of course the yellow star, this one you should probably already know, was for the Jewish prisoners. In 1940, Egon Ziel became the Schutzhaftlagerführer, which was the first position after the commander, and he came with a very embarrassing idea. He made a band, picked up some prisoners and made a band that they needed to they must play music for the entertainment of the SS guards. Of course, for all the prisoners it was very annoying and embarrassing, because they were already very tired and exhausted and dying from starving, and they was forced to sing and to celebrate the German victories during those times, because, you know, of course these songs were all about the greatness of the Germans. Another punishment was that the prisoners who didn't know German, they were not giving any resting time. They were forced to practice, to learn these German songs. The band was also playing when some prisoners were tortured or executed, so it was really embarrassing, this new rule and the law which was introduced at that time by this Ziel. So here you can see an aerial photography of the barracks after the liberation. It was taken by the US Army. So this is where the barracks were standing. You can see how many they were. So actually these were constructed by the prisoners mainly between 1937 and 38. They had to build 34 barracks, and they were not just barracks where they were living, but also canteen, camp clerk office, a library, and which is very surprising for me, it was an SS museum. And as I said already before, they were using this camp also to train the SS guards for the other concentration camps, and for those they also needed buildings. So all of these were constructed by the prisoners, were kept here. Probably everybody knows about Mengele, but not about Weinherz, who was also a German doctor. He was experimenting here in the Dachau concentration camp. There were 144 prisoners who were suffering from tuberculosis, and he was injecting in them some kind of chemical medicines, which was actually his creature, and only few of these prisoners survived. So even here in Dachau there were a lot of medicinal experiments, not only in Auschwitz by Mengele. So these were really bad tortures, and mostly these prisoners didn't survive. As you can see, there are watchtowers on each edge of the concentration camp, and the SS guards had the totality right to shoot on sight each prisoner who were trying to escape. As I said, it was a state in the state, so the commander of the camp had absolute rights to take decisions and make the own laws of the camp. It doesn't matter what were the laws outside, so they had right to kill and to do whatever they want inside of this camp. What we can see now is a memorial of the Jewish victims. It looks like very similar. This building looks very similar as in Auschwitz-Birkenau, and looks like an entrance of a gas chamber. But actually there was no proof of a gas chamber here in Dachau. That was because Dachau was not a camp where they used cyan gas against the prisoners, because everybody who was not able to work was transported to Hartheim, another concentration camp, and they were executed there in the gas chambers of Hartheim in the euthanasia program of 14F13. So actually, when the Americans liberated the camp, they didn't find any gas, about any cyanoid gas, and there was also a chamber where the prisoners were really afraid, because the Germans wrote on that chamber that it's for a shower. So it was very similar to other concentration camps where the prisoners were executed by gas, but actually it was really barrack chamber where they were just showering. So this building is a memorial for the Jewish victims, and when I said that here was no executions by gas, it wasn't of course to defend the Germans, because they were transporting the victims to other camps where did the same thing. It's just an information about the camp, so please not misunderstand me. It was really sad, and the worst moment of the history of humanity, where 6 million of Jews were murdered by the regime of Hitler. Another memorial is this chapel. This was also not part of the original concentration camp. It is called Todesangst Christi Kapelle, which, if I translate it correctly, is the chapel of the fear of the death of Jesus. Sorry if I was wrong. And I can correct myself already. It's the Catholic Mortar Agony of Christ chapel. It's also memorial. As I said before, the guards were authorized to shoot every prison upon sight when they approached this prohibited zone, and even though they didn't do that, this wire fence was electric, and it was also hard to reach that because there was a canal with water, so it was hard to climb until the electric fence. And even before the fence you can see this additional fence which is on the ground, so it was almost impossible to not almost, it was 100% impossible to escape from here. So many prisoners were using this opportunity to do suicide and to end their suffering and torture. So now we will enter the crematorium area, which contains the first crematorium and the so-called Barrack X, which was the second crematorium constructed in 1944, if I remember well. And this crematorium was more bigger, so had a bigger capacity. Sorry, I was mistaken. It was constructed in 1942-43, and here we can also see some information about what I read before my trip. As you know, I always try to document before I do these vlogs. So they also constructed a gas chamber, but it was not used for mass killing. So actually they were carrying the bodies to these crematoriums, and they were using that just to burn. So the first room is the Disrobing Room, where the victims had to leave their clothes before entering the gas chamber, which actually had this label of Brausebad, which means it's showers. So this was actually to mislead the victims and prevent them to refuse entering the room. And this is how the concentration camps were working. But as I said before, there was no proof about it that this room was really used for the poison gas, which was Cyclone B, prussic acid poison gas. So this is from where the gas was supposed to flow out, and up to 150 people were supposed to get in this chamber. And the second room was dedicated to bring the bodies. It took from 15 to 20 minutes until they were breathing enough from this poison gas, and they were dying. So this is the chamber where they brought the corpses after they were poisoned before entering the crematorium room, which is the next one. So this is the most shocking part of Dachau, because this was used to burn the corpses. So it's really incredible, shocking, and I don't know which words to use to see the history in front of me. So it's really yeah, it's a shocking feeling to know that more 1,000 people were burnt here. It's such a disgrace, and it's really yes. Really don't know how to comment these burning ovens. It's really shocking. So we don't know if those chambers were used with poison gas, as I mentioned before, but the next room was used for sure to bring the victims fallen in the concentration camp before entering to the crematorium. So this is the so-called death chamber 2, to store the corpses from the prisoner camp to be cremated. Absolutely incredible what happened here. As I mentioned before, the concentration camp of Dachau was mainly for political prisoners, but there were also Soviet soldiers who were brought from the east to be executed here or kept for work. But actually this cruelty to execute the soldiers, which was against the Treaty of Genf, it wasn't allowed to execute the soldiers. This was backfiring, because when the American army was liberating this concentration camp on 29th of April 1945, they were also very cruel. Maybe you couldn't imagine about the American army and about the American soldiers, but they were also just shooting all the SS soldiers and the guards who were not escaping before this liberation. This was also a fault. It was injustice, because even though we probably all agree that these people didn't deserve to live and they should be executed, but it was not justice. They should be brought to the justice and shouldn't be executed upon sight. And there were also German soldiers of the Waffen-SS. The Waffen-SS was the department who was fighting in the war. They were not guards of this concentration camp. There were also even Hungarians, and not all of them were Germans. So this was also called in the history the massacre of Dachau, which in my opinion is also a little bit too much, because you know this camp was standing for 12 years, and massacre it was already before, because these victims were innocent and they were dying from starving and from executions. So that was much more a massacre. So if you're interested about more details, you can find an exhibition which is very detailed, and it's a very long building. Here's the main entrance, and you can see all over here. It's a long exhibition what you can find, and it presents the concentration camp in details. So actually I wanted to give you just a brief introduction about the camp, and based on my research, what I read, and about what I was finding on different sources. So this is, I think, maybe 1% of the whole history of the camp. So if you are really interested, I really recommend this exhibition. How you can find this building: just turn right after the main entrance, and you will find it. This is a map of the concentration camps in the Nazi Germany. As you can see, there are really a lot of camps. Here is Dachau. So after a short introduction of the history of the Nazi Germany, we can find historical details about the concentration camp, and what it makes really amazing, this museum, that this is between the walls of the camp. You can see Rauchenverboten, it means no smoking. It's the authentic original writing from the Second World War. So this is what it makes this museum really special. You can find the historical camp gate at the end of the museum, which was at the entrance of each concentration camp. Arbeit macht frei, which means that the work sets you free. This is kept here at the end of the museum. We are now outside of the concentration camp, where is the SS street, Straße der SS. Here we could find the houses and the barracks of the SS guards who were watching the prisoners of the concentration camp, and even the former commandant's villa, which you can see here. It was demolished in 1987. So actually the houses which you can see below the fence are not the original houses. But about the history of these, they were constructed during the First World War, and they were used by these SS men, but it was not enough for the whole team of SS guards, so the prisoners were forced to construct more buildings here. So now this street is called Straße der KZ-Opfer, which means the street of the victims of the concentration camp. So this was the vlog about the concentration camp in Dachau. Please don't forget to remember the victims and the fallen. It was a really bad point of the human history when all those things happened. Still have a lot of travel plans, so it's worth to subscribe to my channel. So see you soon next time. Have a nice day and goodbye.